Chef Allen is just a normal guy. I grew up in the restaurant business. I am not a classically trained chef. Um, my culinary background is really just my parents have always owned mom and pop Chinese restaurants. I grew up as a little kid after school, get picked up, go to the restaurant, and they were there 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So I just happened to be there anytime I'm not at school. I was at the restaurant. So I did my homework there, and when I was done with my homework, I'd go in the back and help prep, cut vegetables, fry, par fry some spring rolls, egg rolls, sweet and sour chicken, and that's kind of how I got it. Then when I grew up and got a little bit older, I became a latchkey kid. So after school, I was allowed to go home. I didn't have to go to the restaurant, but then that means I had to cook my own meals. So as I was cooking my own meals and I'm experimenting, and of course I'm only using what I've learned growing up and seeing my parents and my father do. So I kind of learned from them and started experimenting and playing at home. And luckily I didn't burn the house down, and here we are. So today I just honestly, Asian culinary. I've done some playing around with other recipes and kind of hybrided or did some fusion items, and they were delicious. So that's how I became, I guess, a chef. When I'm cooking, aroma is really big for me, because as I'm doing homework or whatever they were cooking, that's all I would really see. I would really smell. You would smell those aromas. So in my cooking today, aroma is the most important ingredient for me. You want to make sure you use the aromatics properly. Not too much salt, not too much sugar, right? Not too much of those additives. You just want the aromas of all the herbs and garlic and stuff like that. So, probably not the best answer, but honestly, what I do really remember from my childhood is just all the smells. And even going to visit all my families in Malaysia. So when we go back to Malaysia, you walk the streets, you just get hit with all these smells, and whether you're hungry or not hungry, you will be after you smell them. So that's kind of my fondest memory of childhood. So after moving here to Orlando, I moved here when I was about 17. And coming from Cincinnati, Ohio, the culinary scene wasn't very diverse. So growing up and eating very unique foods, I just missed it. And if my parents couldn't cook it for me, my parents were in Malaysia or my parents were somewhere else, there was no one there to cook it for me. So then I had to start cooking it myself. So when we decided to open Hawkers, really all those things that I've always missed and all those things I love eating are now on the Hawkers menu. So I'd say, it was not having it and making me want to try to recreate some of those dishes and some of those flavors is what really drove my passion to want to do this. At Hawkers, when we were creating the menu, we really tried to push the envelope. So when we first opened, it was very almost introductory. We were trying to make everything as approachable as we can. So every time we come to a new menu change, I really try to take another step forward and push the envelope a little bit. Of course, still trying to keep things as approachable as we can. But it's all the inspirations. It's all the travels and the aromas, the smells, the taste that we miss, or just taking inspiration from dishes that I've had on my travels and trying to recreate it here and making it approachable for the demographics. When we first opened this, we really didn't know what kind of reaction we were going to get. But after the first week, we kind of got it. Everybody was just kind of really excited about it and loved all the dishes that I loved, which makes me excited. And even so today, the last question was, how do we create the menu? Even today, that excitement from the guests and some of the guests comment on our social media or even in-store dining, I write all those things down. I write all the comments down. I keep a log of it, and I go back and I'm like, hey, I had this many people ask for this, and I really love this dish. Maybe it's time to roll it out. And we'll start playing with it in the R&D, and with the R&D period, and hopefully perfect it and roll it out. When a guest comes to Hawkers, they should expect a wide variety of small plate offerings. We really try to encourage sharing. I bring as authentic as recipes. I try not to dumb them down. I try not to water them down or anything. I give it to them how it is. And we come out with a new menu every 6 months, and the new items are really just testing the market. What works, stays, what doesn't. So we try to keep it as authentic as we can. I don't Americanize it or whatever you want to call it. So the guest should expect real authentic food from the streets of Asia, at least from my experiences of the streets of Asia. And small plate offerings, a great experience and ambiance, and really just a good night out. We try to say it's not just about the food. This is a nice night out where you can have some good drinks, have some good food, hopefully some good company, and have a good 2-3 hours with friends, and go back and get back to responsibility. But when you're here, just let it all go and kind of enjoy the food, enjoy the energy and the drinks, and have a good time. So what is hawkers? The word hawkers is actually just a street vendor in Asia. That's what they call it in Asia. I've seen it used in the States as well. It's like if somebody was hawking something, it's just the adjective term word for it. So here in America, a hawker would be your Sabrit hot dog vendor, or maybe a taco vendor, or something that they serve on the streets, right? In Asia, most of the foods are served on the streets. A hawker is that vendor that serves that food on the streets. And when we go back to Malaysia and visit family or travel, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, it's all really the same. When it's dinner time, we don't go into a dining establishment or an indoor restaurant. Usually you'll hear relatives say, "Oh, where do you want to go? You want to just go to the hawker center?" Because at a hawker center, it's where individual hawkers has their stalls or their carts, and they're kind of lined up in a circle, or sometimes they're sporadic around down the street. But it's somewhere where you can go with the group, and everybody kind of disperses, and they can go and get what they're feeling that night or what they're in the mood for. They kind of all come back to a table, and everybody's picking in everybody's food and sharing. So that's kind of where the concept of hawkers came from. So as we were doing it, obviously we wanted a symbol or a mark that someone can recognize. That's kind of where we came up with this logo. So this logo is not a real Chinese kanji character. There are some Chinese characters that are very similar to this, but this is not where it came from. We created this because we wanted it to symbolize the ancient hawkers, okay, and also the old school hawkers where they're walking down the street and selling goods with a stick on their shoulder and two baskets hanging like a pendulum almost, and balancing that cane. So that's the traditional hawker, and that's what we kind of wanted to symbolize. So if you see this cross mark with the two dots on it, that's his pole with his two baskets. And then he has a little hawker hat on, a straw bamboo hat. So it symbolizes the H. It symbolizes a hawker, traditional hawker walking down the street. As you can see, his one leg's in front of the other, and he's taking a step. And that's what it is. And because it is Asian, we wanted to make it look like an Asian character. So it's almost got 3 reasons why we created this.